Welcome to Political Perspectives. I'm Hugo Gurdon, Editor-in-Chief of the Washington Examiner. If you're joining on YouTube, please like and subscribe to our channel. Byron York joins me as usual this week. Byron is Chief Political Correspondent for the Washington Examiner. And Byron, we're going to talk about war. The latest comment from President Trump that I have noticed is that he, in being asked about Iran or explaining his position on Iran, he says, "No one knows what I am going to do." Do you think he's decided? How do you read what Trump is doing here?
Well, it could be that no one knows what he's going to do because he doesn't know what he's going to do right now. So I think you raise a good question there. Not sure. The conventional wisdom seems to be that Trump is moving in the direction of authorizing U.S. forces to drop this big bomb, the bunker buster bomb at Fordo, the deep underground Iranian facility, as opposed to just offering support and encouraging the Israelis to keep doing what they're doing, which is attacking all aspects of Iran's nuclear program, as well as their finances, their government, everything. So it's not entirely clear what the president has decided to do, because I'm not sure that he has.
Right. I don't know whether the right phrase is increased pressure, but let's just say there's increased pressure on President Trump to intervene and to take
Yeah.
offensive action. I saw General Jack Keane, for example, saying now is the time. This has been hanging over policy and the whole of the Middle East region for decades. The airspace over to Iran is cleared by the Israelis. There's a perfect opportunity. I saw Cliff May, the head of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, putting out a video on X yesterday, and he was saying, look, the stealth bomber could go over there, drop the bombs, blow out the Fordow facilities, return to its base in Missouri in time for breakfast, and that would be the extent of the American intervention, and this problem that has been looming for so long would be dealt with. Now, we can get on a little bit later to the fact that war is unpredictable and things happen where you could have America drawn in one way or another. But do you think that the president is susceptible to pressure, or do you think there's an element in here where he sees there's an opportunity which he had not foreseen, and he wants to take the action which will actually achieve the policy that he has said all along, which is they can't have nuclear weapons?
Well, I think he can recognize opportunities, and he is susceptible to pressure. You might want to just call it influence. And we've
Hmm.
known for years that Trump talks to a lot of people.
Right.
Um, and so, what is the range of people he's listened to? When I say talks to people, he's really listening to people, what they have to say.
Right.
Are there members of Mar-a-Lago, for example, who've weighed in on this? I would not be surprised at all. And Trump
Right.
listened to them probably. He has this wide range of input. And I also remember, though, Trump won the Republican nomination in 2015 and 16 by just trashing George W. Bush
Right.
and the war in Iraq and the way the United States went to war in Iraq. And
Right.
I think that caution is needed here in this
Right.
case
Yeah.
for this reason. I do not know how close Iran was to having a nuclear bomb 2 weeks ago. I
Hmm.
don't know, in part because I'm suspicious of everybody who tells me, in part because I lived through the whole run up to the Iraq War in 2002 and 2003. So
Right.
I'm a little bit suspicious, and I feel like I don't know. But
Right.
I do feel that I know that Iran's nuclear capabilities are a lot less than they were 2 weeks ago.
Right.
We saw in Benjamin Netanyahu's interview with Bret Baier on Fox News, Netanyahu said that the Israelis had significantly set back Iran's program.
Do you have any estimate on how much you have set back Iran's nuclear program? I think we've set them back quite a bit. I think they were completely surprised. And, surprise is a great element of success. Remember the Pragers? Remember Nasrallah? That's part of breaking up the Iranian axis. And we achieved that with surprise. And I think we achieved a great surprise the other day when we started.
We've seen other analysts and these people who are pro-Israeli, and they're very impressed with what Israel has done so far in these attacks on Iran. They've been very positive about how much disruption Israel has managed to put into the Iranian system.
Right.
So if you were an alarmist and a couple of weeks ago you said Iran's 10 minutes away from getting a bomb, we got to act right now.
Right.
It's a lot longer than that now. And if the goal is to make sure Iran does not have a nuclear weapon, that goal is actually being achieved right now.
Right.
Is it a solution for all time? No.
Right.
There aren't that many solutions for all time, but it'll do in the short run.
Right. In considering this matter, I think it's very important to make a distinction which some people are trying to blur, which is that American intervention is being equated with a policy of regime change. And I think it's important to make clear that that is not necessarily the case. In fact, they are two distinct things, although one could produce the other, and you could have both goals. But you can have a policy which is the eradication and more extensive destruction of Iran's nuclear facilities without having regime change as part of your goal. Because, of course, if regime change is part of your goal, you get into the sort of thing that we had in the Iraq wars and in Afghanistan, where you've got American troops on the ground. No one is suggesting that. Of course, you never know exactly how things are going to pan out, and there may be pressure on that. But that distinction needs to be made, doesn't it? Even though caution is obviously necessary.
Yeah, I think you have to talk about American goals and Israeli goals, and they're not necessarily the same thing. So the Netanyahu in this interview with Bret Baier talked at some length about how much help the United States has already given to Israel, basically in defending Israel from various attacks from the region, missiles, drones, that sort of thing.
That I deeply appreciate President Trump's decision to help in the defense of Israel. American pilots are shooting down drones that are headed towards Israel, as do our pilots. American THAAD missile batteries are helping defend Tel Aviv and greater Tel Aviv area. American Aegis ships are in the Mediterranean. That's all a decision by President Trump, which I deeply appreciate.
Right. So the United States is doing militarily, helping to defend Israel. It's not attacking Iran, but it's helping to defend Israel. So all good there. Yeah. But then where do you go beyond that? And there are people who say, well, all we got to do is drop this one bomb and we'll go and it'll all be over. I'm just skeptical of that. I mean, obviously, Iran will want to counterattack if they can. They don't have a lot of assets, but there's a ton of U.S. military personnel around in that region. There are plenty of places that an ingenious country, if they wanted to kill 20, 30, 40 Americans, they might be able to do it. Right. And then where are we? So I here again, I'm Mr. Caution on this one.
Right. Well, and that brings me to a related subject, which I'd love you to sort of unwrap a bit for the audience, and that is the domestic politics of this amongst Trump's supporters.
Yeah.
He has a lot of people who voted for him because he was against forever wars, and as you say, he was bitterly critical of previous presidents' intervention in different wars. It is the case that if America were to take action, it would not be America initiating the war. Iran has killed thousands of Americans over the decades with the stated purpose of being at war and destroying the great Satan. But at the same time, a substantial portion of Trump's support comes from people who just don't want American intervention. So how do you see that there was a poll out just recently which showed a lot of support for Israeli action anyway against Iran, and I think American support of Israel. So how does this play out in Trump's domestic support and his position at home?
That is a really fascinating question. So basically, what you're saying is, where is MAGA world on this?
Right.
And there are some divisions. There's no doubt about it. The most prominent one being Tucker Carlson, who has gone full scale against any sort of American participation in attacking Iran. And he has a few allies, but you're seeing other people in MAGA world attacking Tucker Carlson for because they feel that America first means that you do what Trump thinks is best, and if Trump thinks attacking Iran is best, then that's America first.
By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing. The obsession with Israel, when we're talking about foreign countries,
it's hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese, you're not talking about Japanese, you're not talking about the Brits, you're not talking about the French. The question, what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, I'm an anti-Semite now.
Right.
So they're having this big debate about it. My sense is the larger group, the sort of rank and file MAGA, is kind of waiting, see what happens. And they'll support Trump. Now, I think it's instructive to go back to the American assassination of Soleimani, basically the Iranian terror chief. Just took him out, and there really weren't that many repercussions about it. There was a lot of talk about Iran retaliating, and maybe 10 years from now they'll do something and say it was for that, but there just haven't been that many. And no Americans were killed or anything like that. So if Trump were able to do something in Iran that was like that, and it was nice and kind of neat from our perspective, then I don't think it'd make a lot of difference in his support at all.
Right.
But if he does it and it gets messier, like it did for George W. Bush in Iraq, then he's got to have a big problem. That's why they pay him the big bucks. He's the president of the United States. He's going to have to decide whether this is something he wants to risk doing.
Finally, let's just turn briefly to how this plays, if at all, for the Democrats. Chuck Schumer, who is the minority leader in the Senate, has asked for a briefing of all 100 senators, obviously behind closed doors. They want to know, but I don't get the impression that the Democrats know quite how to deal with this. Obviously, you've got some of their more extreme people. Bernie Sanders, for instance, wanted a bill and he came out saying it was Israel that started this war, and America shouldn't be dragged into the war. But I think that there's a certain degree of dispute within the Democratic Party over the extent to which they should oppose Trump and oppose the war. Does this play at all for the Democrats in one way or the other?
Wow, another good question. Obviously, a number of Democrats have been rhetorically anti-Israel, basically on the premise that Israel is overdone it in retaliating in Gaza. So you have those Democrats. On the other hand, there's not a big caucus in favor of a nuclear-armed Iran. So Trump does this. It's a success. There aren't any big repercussions. The Democrats say, okay, that was good. Let's move on.
Right.
Now, Trump does it. It's either not a success or there's some messy repercussions involving loss of American life. Then they'll be all over him saying it was a terrible idea, the wrong thing to do. And how could he possibly even thought of something like that?
Right.
So, I mean, they're going to be very opportunistic here. But I do think fundamentally, even with what they've said about what Israel has done in Gaza, I just don't see a lot of them standing up for Iran and saying that they should have been able to continue their work on nuclear weapons.
Right. I think even on this one, I mean, on Iran, the Democrats, even though they've chosen the wrong side of 80-20 issues on a whole range of other things, they're not going to choose to back Iran. So that's where we'll leave it, Byron. Thanks very much for joining me today. And thank you all viewers for tuning into Political Perspectives. Join us again next time.